Hi, today's topic is on triggers. And as you know, SPS has many triggers, but we decided to focus on our worst one and share our experiences. So, hi, Aliyah. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Leah. I'm doing okay. Triggers is a good one for me because it's been a a week of triggers. And when you told me and we told each other we have to pick just one, because I'm sure everybody out there can think of many triggers that they have. Um, the ones we read about, light, sound, such. But I think it's so personal to everybody that when you said pick one trigger, the cold came to me. And it came to me because I just had a recent experience here in Connecticut. Weather's turning and the temperature dropped. I was not dressed appropriately. I was not doing all of my layering, my warming, my ears covered. So and it wasn't that cold. It wasn't my scary cold temperature where I know I stopped talking and everything freezes up. That's 27 degrees Fahrenheit. Leah, I don't know it in Celsius off the top of
Only
my head.
smiling
We
because I feel what you say. And
Yes.
that,
And
yeah,
even though
Fahrenheit, no. Fahrenheit, I don't
even though
know.
we deal in different units, I always have a Google up ready to translate centimeters, inches, etc. But the cold, that was one for me that I explained it away my entire life, my hatred of the cold. And it's really easy to just say, oh, Aaliyah hates the cold and she hates the cold because a lot of people dislike being cold. But I had a very always since childhood of like kind of a violent reaction to like cold. I don't like it, and it would make me always feel like like this, but I never really thought about that as muscle rigidity. I thought about that as just like cold. So looking back, and then when and thinking of this trigger in a more deep way, which is what you have forced me to do by picking one trigger, was to say, whoa, I've been dealing with this cold trigger that has made me feel unwell physically and then mentally for a long time, maybe my whole life. But now it is a real SPS trigger because when I experience a sudden change in temperature, and for me it's usually going from the hot to the cold, and it's not the cold itself, because if I'm prepared for it, it might not do anything. It probably won't do anything to me. If I'm dressed appropriately, I'm ready for it to be cold. I've never had an incident when that happened. When I'm ill prepared, like the other day, and I went outside and I felt like because the cold goes in your nostrils and in your ears, and your brain knows it's cold. So the central nervous system and whatever we deal with, for me, it's a trigger of muscle spasticity, rigidity, and then becoming a stiff man. And it happens fast and not, as you get treated and the treatments are helping, I find that the triggers won't trigger such bad consequences like huge falls, 10-man falls, or things like that. But now that I'm on a more stable footing with my treatment, the cold made me just feel pain and made my husband feel, useless, and all the horrible things that we don't want to feel and we think we got rid of. So all triggers are bad because they bring you back to a place where you kind of thought maybe you moved on from or something like that. So it's
I
a
want
moment where
I
you're
want to
where
ask
you're
you
like,
something.
yeah.
So, the fact that you said that it's still a trigger, but it's less of a trigger.
Oh, so much less of a
Your
trigger.
brain,
Yeah.
you're not so in touch with it that maybe you're not always prepared for the cold, and that's why it
You
happens
got it.
sometimes.
You got it.
Okay.
When I was, say, at the beginning of, after diagnosis, but then like getting acquainted, I found myself doing lots of things to prepare myself. Everybody knows Aaliyah has to have blankets at the restaurant, or, stupid things like portable heating pads that my mom found in Sharper Image. They saved my life. And I, however, like you're getting to something really, really key here. And it's a message of hope for our, fellow
Yeah.
sufferers out there, because as you get treated, your triggers won't go away if they were very like severe your whole life maybe, but like again, it was me feeling bad. And then it took like 3 hours to sort of like thaw out in the bed after I experienced that. But that wasn't necessarily a bad thing for anybody, So it was, I mean, I felt uncomfortable. I actually took my as needed medication, something I don't allow myself to do sometimes because of I don't know what this good girl thing, or maybe as an addiction psychiatrist, I always want to think of the long game and have a place to go. But I thought of my husband, I thought of Leia, I thought of my mother. Take the meds. What are you saving it for? And I took them. And for me, that was a little diazepam, and I just chilled, and I did okay. In the past, a temperature difference like that I wasn't prepared for could have made me have a tin man fall, which is instant muscle rigidity that you have and splat wherever that lands you. And then what just happened? Am I hurt or am I injured? Got that from a coach. A patient had a coach that said that, and I never let it go. Am I hurt or am I injured? Now I find myself much less in that place of on the floor. Am I hurt or am I injured? Can I move? What's broken? Is it a rib? Should I go to the ER? No, I don't think of that anymore. So you just brought that to my attention that, like, wow, I'm not even scared of the cold like it's going to do that. I used to be. So there is hope in the fact that you might be still triggered by, something, but it won't like really hurt you. And it didn't hurt me mentally. It didn't drag me back to a place I used to be. I didn't get depressed. I did for a second. I got gives you a shock, and then you can spiral. We've used that word before. So it can take you down. And I think us talking about it today, it's sure going to help me. And I hope it helps other people think about it as just like triggers are part of this disease. That's what it is. A hypersensitivity to our stimuli. But for me, I have found that it is the change in stimuli. The fact that I was expecting it to be at one temperature and it wasn't, and it was different. I wasn't prepared. My temperature dropped and my body lost it. And so I think for me, that's my trigger, I talk about today. And what's yours,
Well,
Missy?
first of all, I know we're not going to post it on the correct day, but we're filming on the 3rd of December, which is International Disabilities Awareness Day. And there's a very important component to SPS, which is the invisible side of our disease. And I think triggers covers a lot of what is invisible, because you get triggered, no one knows why you got triggered if they don't know you, and then suddenly you're out of control. So I just wanted to point that out, because disability is not only what you see. Most of them, especially in our disease, or a lot of them, are not seen, are not recognized. And I just wanted to touch on that, because we're talking about triggers. And, you and the cold falling, like no one could associate that with being a trigger from a disease if they don't know you. And that's an invisible symptom of SPS. And I think it's quite important to recognize that because of today. And sorry, guys, you'll probably be seeing this in like 2-3 days, but today is when we filmed it. Like you said, I have several triggers as well. My worst one, sorry, it's just ironic, is noise. Is noise. And this is coming from a girl who played the piano for 20 years, who, I mean, my brand line is, if you're not dancing, something's wrong. And I guess you dance to music. So I love music. I love sound. I love the sound of nature. I love birds singing. I mean, I like sound. Obviously, I don't like horrible sound, but I mean, sound has always been a part of my life. And the first time it happened to me, that sound did something to me. It wasn't progressive. It was really quick. Like I got so stiff and I couldn't move. And I didn't understand what was happening, but I couldn't move. And I got really stiff and I just started like going up like this in my face. And it took me a couple of times to realize it was actually sound. And it took me a bit longer that it's the sound that I cannot control. Because I can listen to music if I'm controlling the thing. Or if I decide to bash the door, I'm bashing the door, so I know it's going to make sound. It's unexpected sound. And life is busy. Outside life is noisy. You cannot control sound. So it's a very difficult one. First of all, because at the beginning I thought like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to listen to music anymore. I'm not going to be able. So, but that's not important. It's about recognizing that it's sound, that you have to have protection. So, at first I had these huge noise canceling headphones that I used for traveling, and now I used to sleeping because there's works happening behind my house, and they start at different hours and they're very loud. They've pushed me out of my bed once or twice. So and thankfully only bruises. So I use them for like major stimulation because airports are horrible. They also trigger all my other triggers. But anyway, uh, but now under treatment, I still need to protect myself because it does affect me, but much less. And you have to understand that sound in a city, when you go out, you can control anything. So it's everywhere. So I wear these mini earplugs that remove 25 decibels. So they're like a filter. They don't completely change. And if it's too noisy or there's a big sound that comes up, I'll have a reaction, but I won't fall or I won't, and usually anyone who's next to me will be like, what's wrong? Because, I'll start being like this or, and if it doesn't pass, and it hurts, I'll take my SOS medication. And usually I don't need that. It passes. And if you let it pass, you just, it was a sound that I didn't hear. You mentally calm yourself, and then eventually your body follows, which never happened before treatment. Like it wasn't at all. But now it kind not always is, but mind over body does help a lot. My mom tells me to breathe, always breathe. She's like, you don't breathe, you're stopping your breathing. I was like, because I'm in pain.
No.
She's like, but breathe, it will help. She's right.
Yes.
So
That I would love to say something, Leah, to you right now because it's so key. That idea of mind over matter. I believe it. I grew up with it. I'm a psychiatrist. I literally believe that the mind is what it is. And that you said it though, until you're stable, don't beat yourself up over not being able to mind over matter. And loved ones and caretakers, please don't get frustrated before a person is stable enough to use mind over matter. You do need to have a certain level of stability, mental capacity that you're not in so much pain where you could take the right meds and things like that. So I think that is so key, what you just said. Mind over matter. Yeah, let's all do it. I mean, we were probably meditating and doing yoga in our 20s. I could imagine we've never talked about it, but we've been there. So I want to reach out to like our people who love holistic things and, treatments that are more of the mind. And it is a thing, it's the truth, but you do have to have a level of stability to use it. So don't beat yourself up until you're stable and then do the hard work.
And even with that, sometimes you have to recognize if it lasts too long that you tried, but it's not enough. No, because I'm very conscious that I don't always want to go to SOS straight away. So, but when it lasts too long, like you have to do what you have to do. Anyway, each one is different. Each one has different experiences, but I have many triggers. Don't think that noise is my only trigger, but we picked one because we thought the episode would be very long if we like. I think Ilea picked one, and I think it's important to recognize this is a part that no one who hasn't experienced it can understand how it makes you feel, how from one minute to another You are
You can,
okay to feeling in the most horrific pain ever at the beginning and hopefully tame down if, things get more or less stable. But that's why I wanted to highlight that it was International
Mhm.
Disability Day, because it's a hidden one. And
Yes.
I'm really glad you told me about your cold. I'm really glad that, you suffered, yes, but it was so much less than what it was before. And you did kind of admit that, sometimes you forget almost. It's like me,
Mhm.
sometimes I forget to go out without my, and then, I have a bit of
Yes.
weakness, and my mom looks at me, is like, it's your fault, you forgot your headphones. It's like,
Yep.
I
We
forget.
can't be spoiled little brats in
Yeah,
this.
it's
None of
so
us can.
useless.
And we can't be spoiled and get used to feeling good. Even with a little med change, sometimes in 3 months, you're like, oh, I don't even need that. Well, it's the medication that made you feel like you don't need it. So chill. And we both, I think that's a really good point. Ah, really good.
Just so you know, even in summer, I have always a shawl in my bag. Okay,
Mine too.
so I
So
don't
people
don't
listen
want to
up.
talk about the
Everybody,
other
boys,
triggers, but I
girls,
mean,
shawl.
my mom was like, "You have 3 or 4 things that never leave your bag. That's the lesson."
That's
And so
right.
I'm just guessing, the more prepared you are for your trigger, once you've identified it, the better you can try and live with it, because
Yes.
it's part of our disease.
Yes.
But there's a
And
positive message. First of all, I can safely say, like Ilya said, that it's diminished. And I've identified all my triggers. So also that's a nice, makes you more comfortable, because you feel a bit
mm,
more like, okay, I
in
know what,
control.
yes. But eh, well, we would really like and you to interact with this conversation today. What do we want them to do, Ilya? What's the homework today?
I would say we're gonna make it just as hard on you as Leia made it on me. Pick one trigger. That's it, just one, and write it down. Think about it, and think about it like I had to think about it. Go back in your history. Mine was cold, and I started thinking about my childhood and college and things that do that. Process one of your triggers and see how it makes you maybe not have to process the other ones in such depth. Because once you're good at it, then you just get better at it. You're like, okay, light. Let me get if I wear prescription glasses, let me get them tinted, blah, blah, blah. And you start to do all these things. I'm sitting in a chair today and it is orthopedically padded both on the back and on the butt because I couldn't do this without it. So preparation is it can thwart your triggers,
I was trying
and
to
how
make this
severe
flick
they are.
move, but my red glasses
Yeah,
that
there
everyone
your
has.
red glasses.
Uh,
Exactly.
so thank you
So
as
pick
always.
one.
Yeah. And so Ilya asked you to do homework for yourself, but we would really like to hear from you, if you want to share with us in the comment section, what is your biggest trigger?
Mhm.
And I think it's a nice way for all of us to engage and, see what comes up. Um,
Yeah.
um, thank you for
Thank
today.
you. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. And I can't wait to read the triggers. I have a sense we're gonna be a lot more alike than we are different.
Oh, for sure. Um, and there will be another heart to heart before Christmas, and then the next one will be in the new year. So, see you guys very soon.
See
Thanks.
you guys.